This is the Leaders on Fire podcast. On this show, we'll be inviting guests in to talk about crucible moments in their lives and unpack how it developed character and perseverance and how they emerged as leaders on fire. We hope that this podcast is an encouragement and an inspiration to you. Today, we get to have a special guest. It is the CEO of DreamOn Studios, the studio I'm sitting in here right now. So we're having Mason Geiger on our show today. Super excited to have him on. Man, he's been a huge part in my life and helping me accomplish my dreams with bringing leaders on fire and putting it out there for people to digest and learn and helping my dreams become a reality. So super excited to have Mason on to hear his story and also to hear about his crucible moments and how he has emerged as a leader on fire. So let's welcome Mason to the show. All right, Mason, we're excited to have you on the show here, right here in your own studio at DreamOn Studios. So this is pretty cool.
It is interesting to be on this side of the camera.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, Mason is the CEO of DreamOn Studios. Mason and I's relationship goes back a few years, and we've gotten closer over the last few years, particularly over the last few months. We've been working on a project together. But Mason is who I want to be when I grow up when it comes to being a cyclist. So he's my inspiration. I'm always checking his metrics, going, man, am I gaining anything on him yet in my cycling? And so Mason's an awesome cyclist. He's an awesome creative individual. He's got an amazing thing going here at DreamOn Studios. So we're excited to have you on the show and hear some things about you, some crucible moments, some difficult things, some wonderful things, and how you've emerged as a leader on fire. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Drew. I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome, man. So let's light the fire.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about who is Mason Geiger. Who are you? What do you do? A little bit about your family.
All right. So I am 34 years old. I'm married to Leah, my beautiful bride, for will be 13 years in September. So we got married young. And we have a beautiful daughter, Keegan Riley, who will be 3 in September. So
awesome.
Yeah. And I'm very, you said, cycling. I love endurance sports. I love pushing my limits, finding new things, seeking out boundaries, and trying to find new ways to test that. And just really just getting out. I feel like I have my clearest thoughts whenever I'm on my bike. So I try to seek that out as much as I can.
Awesome, man. Yeah. So you are the CEO of DreamOn Studios. Yeah. But you're also I would say, some of the creative horsepower behind the organization. That's really where your heart is, right? Yeah. I mean, the creativity and the inspiration, the visioneering of beautiful sets like this. You want to speak a little bit about that at all?
Yeah, no. So I just think there's so much power in story and that everyone has a story to share. And so being able to come in and find unique ways to, one, hear their story and then be able to help them identify and see the impact that it can have and be able to find a way that to showcase it, that whenever they look back on it, they feel seen and they feel heard and that they're excited about them being able to share that story. So that's why I love what we get to do here. We get to work in a lot of different industries, a lot of different businesses, and continually learning from them and getting to, from C-suite down in these organizations and seeing what works and just leadership techniques and helping sharing stories inside of the organizations, that it's just really fun. And it's just, every day is something new. And I love that. It's an adventure. That's
awesome, man. Well, you and your team are doing awesome work here. I've enjoyed being a part of it a ton. So, all right, let's warm things up a little bit and fan the flame. So tell us a little bit about how DreamOn Studios even came about. Like what was the inspiration? How did it come about? And what's the story behind that, man?
How far back we want to go with this?
As far as you want to go, man.
It's been a journey for sure. I mean, it started, my love for video and just kind of capturing stories really goes back, honestly, like high school and the opportunities and photography and the radio and TV class, and just getting to explored creating. I have a music background, played piano, and so I always kind of had that creative medium that I worked inside of, but it was really getting behind a camera that I started to look for what are new ways to kind of capture, and didn't really even understand storytelling through art and video. But I just continued to kind of work and had a lot of freedom in high school to really discover and work with that. And then, yeah, I mean, man, trying to figure out how to like tie all the story together. So yeah, going out to LA, pulled the whole classic small town of as soon as you graduate, get as far away as possible. So it was like 2 weeks after graduation, moved out to LA. My sister was out there and her family, and so got kind of connected into the industry out there, and was doing some sound effects and ADR, and just quickly realized though that that's not wasn't where I was supposed to be. It was just kind of looking and seeing just family dynamics and my boss who I was working with at the time, and it was more of the you live to work instead of like working to live. And I just know, as much as I loved what I was doing, the fruits of the labor on the end, it was all like it felt very self-serving. It was like, I'm working because I can say like, hey, I worked on this project, or I got to work with this person. But I didn't like the impact wasn't there. And so, yeah, I was honestly kind of lost. Didn't really know what God had planned, but just had this like very like intense, like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. Moved back to Warsaw, and was in that transition that then I ended up meeting Leah. And so we started, I mean, I was smitten with her from from day one. And I mean, we did a lot of recording together, and she was a singer-songwriter, and so got to like work with her on that. And just we created a bond, and knew I'm like, hey, this is the person I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with, and kind of poured everything into that relationship. And as we kind of got married and we're figuring things out, I mean, being young, she's going back to school, I'm working construction with the family business, the thing that I swore I was never going to do whenever I, moved out to California. I'm like, I'm done with construction. And 2 years later, I'm back doing that same thing, and just felt like I, in some senses, took a huge step back, like career-wise, but looking back now, it's it's always cool to look back and see like, yeah, God's like eternal, like he had a bigger plan in place I had no idea for. So, but in that, still knowing that like construction is not the long term for me. And we were sitting in the movie theater here at North Point, which is ironic that it's just right down the street from us now, and watching the ads play before, and just being like, these are really, really bad. And just being like, I feel like the Warsaw, like that we could do better. And, having no idea what I was getting into, but that was just kind of that trigger point for me of like, hey, I think there's an opportunity locally to kind of start something up. And so it was 2013 that I started. Then it was Mason Geiger Photography and Film. And I kind of started to build the business and just figure it out as I went. So I was working construction, during the day, and then nights and weekends. I was trying to build the company and just investing. Every project was trying to lead to the next one. It's investing back and building it. And then long story short, then through a lot of connections, working with GLS, 2018, I meet Tim Early at GLS at the PAC, and he comes up and he's like, hey, I know you probably have no idea who I am. I just want to let you know I'm a huge fan of the work that you're doing, and I see you, and just want to say keep up the great work. And then in that about the same time period, I meet Matt Deuel, my co-founder here, and we started working together on some projects. It was actually Keith Sampson that put us together and played a little bit of a matchmaker of hiring us onto the same project. We both looked at each other at the end of, we were a 3-day shoot up in Detroit, and we got back from it. We're like, man, that was a lot of fun. Like, we'd both been he had multiple like business ventures and stuff before, and I had always kind of been the solopreneur, and we kind of looked at each other and saw it was a good match. It was that he had strengths and my weaknesses, and I had strengths and his weeknesses, and we're like, this is a lot of fun kind of working together. So let's keep this going. And then kind of coming through COVID, Tim reached out and we had connected again, and his business had grown, and he was like, hey, what would it look like to, start a state-of-the-art studio here in Warsaw? Because again, at that point, we were still just kind of working out of cars, and we had a small office space, but everything we were doing was traveling out to clients. And he gave us he put the fuel in our rocket, as we say now, to kind of come in, give us a bigger vision of what the studio space could look like and how we could better serve our community. And we, after a lot of prayer and yeah, a lot of thought and prayer and deciding like, is this where we're going to go? And I landed at the point like it's going to allow us to better serve our community. It definitely was stepping outside of my comfort zone because again, I'd always been kind of a solopreneur. Even whenever the work I was doing in LA, it's like I had an boss that I was working with. And so it was just a lot of like, I was doing the work. And so the idea of like leading a team and having to delegate and like all these things were just not on my radar. I'm just like a get in, hands on, like let's do it. So yeah, so it was a big stretch for me. So we made the decision we're going to go forward with this, and we started building out the studio space. And so now we're 3 years in, and it's grown and it's been awesome and a wild ride. But also I feel like we're just like scratching the surface of what we're going to be doing, which is the exciting of, it feels like I feel like every quarter we say, like, man, like we're like right on the precipice of the next thing. And then it's like, we just keep growing and learning and finding new ways to tell stories. And it's been a blast.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing all that.
It was a long,
I mean, DreamOn's created such an awesome brand and reputation in that short amount of time. And I mean, I've personally enjoyed our working relationship and the projects we're working on. And it truly is, you're helping dreams come true. Like, actually, Tim was just in here a few minutes ago before we started this and was sharing with you guys that, these ideas that I have and this vision I have for Leaders on Fire and the Lo-Fi platform, like it took DreamOn to help extract that. Otherwise, it wouldn't be happening. And so I met with you, Mason, and kind of shared the ideas, and you're like, this is possible. Yeah. We can do this. Yeah. And so, super thankful for you guys taking the step. Thankful for Tim and everybody who's behind making this operation work. So
no, we appreciate the opportunity and helping you like tell your story and your messaging, because it is, to me, that's the most exciting and most fulfilling part of what we do is whenever there's someone like you've got an idea and like a passion, like, man, like I feel like there's something here, and then we can come alongside and help guide and bring that vision to life. And then whenever you see it and you're like, yes, like this is the feeling that I wanted. Cause I'm very much, I'm a logical person. I'm not like, when you look at like Enneagram and stuff, like feeling isn't top for me, but it is whenever it comes to creating. It's like, that's everything for me. It's like, I want when someone sees it, it doesn't matter if it's an HR video or a product video. It's like, I want them to have a feeling and a connection to it. That's what really gets me excited. So we appreciate the opportunity of being able to help you tell your story.
For sure, man. So, are you ready to turn up the heat a little more?
Let's do it.
So we're going to enter the crucible.
Take a drink first,
And, Mason's going to share something about a season or a time or a moment in his life where he's entered the crucible. The heat was hot. God was using that to melt off any impurities or anything in his character that just needed further developed. And we know that when we're in these crucible moments, we often pray to God to get us out of them, to get us out of the circumstance, whatever the struggle might be, or we ask, why am I going through this, or how could this happen? And I'm sure you've had many of those in your life. And so excited to hear what God has done in your life through a particular crucible, or multiple if you want to share, and how you emerged with like just better character, more in the image of Christ, and as a leader on fire. So take it away. Enter the crucible, brother.
So there are definitely, looking back on my life, there's multiple like big crucible moments, some more recent than others. But I think when I go back, pivotal one for me when it first, and it's kind of the tying in like DreamOn and who I've become today, I can point back to 10 years ago. First big project it is, we were like starting the company, Leah and I, newly married, crazy season of our life, and had an opportunity to go and tell our first really like storytelling experience in capturing story of divides. There's a couple guys, you may know a couple of them, had an opportunity to do the divide from Mexico to Canada, riding their bikes. And I mean, now whenever I first heard about the trip, I was like, yes, sign me up, all in. Like, this is amazing. Like, just felt fully like there's very few moments in my life that I can point back to where I didn't have a hesitation. Because normally, like, I'm very strategic and like thought out, and it's like I'm a processor. And this was like I heard it, and I'm like, that's where I'm supposed to be. And yes, I mean, we put everything into it. I mean, I'm working construction, which again, you're getting paid hourly. So you're taking a month and a half off of work in the middle of, as we're I'm starting the business, Leah's in school and she's waitressing on the side. And so it's like both of us like, hey, we're going to go no income for the next 42 days and go tell this story. And then day 2, the whole trip falls apart. The whole trip that we envisioned had fallen apart. And just, I remember in that moment, like, I'm not an angry person, but I was like angry in that moment of like, because I felt I was just so sure that this is where I'm supposed to be. This is a story that is going to impact so many people's lives. And because again, they were raising funds for Second Mile Missions to build a safe house down in the Dominican. And it was like, so everything and like what they were doing and the story behind it, I'm like, this is going to be a game changer. Like, and yeah, then it just felt like God just completely like took it all away, and just being so frustrated in that moment. But looking back now, the relationships that I built through that trip, I mean, that was my first then connection with Brent, so your father-in-law, and getting to spend the next like month with him, and just so many cool moments and memories. And looking back now, I mean, that's a moment in my life that like if I could go back and relive over and over again, that would be the one. Which fit in the which just sounds so counterintuitive, because in the moment I was so upset and so angry and like just felt like honestly like hurt by it. But now it's like those were like, it was such an adventure, and like the ride and the relationships that were developed through that. And then also just seeing the physical and like mental strength that it takes to do something like that then ignited the fire in me of wanting to start challenging myself and doing these endurance events. So yeah, I mean, that trip like completely shaped and changed my life. And so now I look, I think is it 2 Timothy 4:7 that's like, finish the fight, or I fought the good fight, finished the race, kept the faith. And it's like, that has become like in everything that I do, it's like no wasted days. It's like, I want to have impact and, push myself to be prepared for moments like that.
And there's a lot to unpack with
Yeah,
that. I think, first of all, I think one of the takeaways is, well, first, if God said, hey, here's a white canvas and a marker, draw out your crucible moment, we would never draw out the crucible moments, right?
Yeah.
Because we probably don't have the courage, and we couldn't even think of some of the things he puts before us that, like you said, you would have never in a million years ever even wanted to have this scenario. On day 2, you were completely crushed, and you were probably in some sort of despair going, what is going going on? You said you were angry, right?
Lost.
You wouldn't have created that on your own. No. I mean, that's not something you would have done, but being able to look at, that crucible moment and how it refined you, and that's a pivotal moment in your life, and it's just like, it's amazing when you think about how God orchestrates some of those things. And then, you mentioned it challenged you to kind of get into endurance events for a couple different reasons. So I kind of want to unpack that a little bit too, because when I think about endurance events, I mean, we've both done Ironman events. You've done some other cycling events that are very rigorous and require endurance. And I think of the scripture where Paul's talking about run the race that's marked out for you. Yeah. And when I think about like doing, let's say, an Ironman, I might have a plan in my head of how I think it's supposed to go. Yep. But there's a race that's marked out for me. Yep. And it might not be what I want, whether I get a flat tire or I get sick or the weather or all these different variables. But that's the race that's been marked out for me. Yeah. And I'm challenged to finish it. Yep. Now, if I could mark out my own race, the weather would be perfect, probably like a nice 68 degrees, no wind, some sun, swim with the current, all these beautiful things. Hydration, nutrition would be spot on, and I would just crush everything. Like that's how I'd want every race to go.
Yeah.
I've maybe had one ever that's gone like that. So let's talk about this idea from kind of tapping into that crucible moment where you kind of had this amazing experience that shaped who you were. Talk about how that shaped your character as a refined leader on fire, but then also how it kind of triggered a new trajectory too of these endurance events and how that kind of all ties together.
I think that was the first like hard moment in my life where coming out of it, I was like, I saw the value of going through hard things because it's so easy. I think, I think like childhood and things growing up, like you have these hard moments and it's easy to have that like victim mindset. And this was like, I saw it just, there was just like a switch that was flipped of like, I saw the power of going through hard things that then made me want to seek out those hard moments. And so when you talk about like the perfect race plan and, a tailwind and like all these things, I want the worst racing conditions because for me, that's the equalizer. Cause it's like, I'm a semi-strong like cyclist and like athlete, but I feel like I'm mentally stronger than a lot of people out there. And so whenever it is raining or there's mud or you get mechanicals, and that's where a lot of people crumble because it's the plan that they had goes out the window and then they don't know how to operate, where I'm like, obviously I have a plan going into those races, but where I have the most fun is when that plan gets thrown out the window. And it's like, okay, this is the challenge. I'm going to embrace it because I know that I'm going to be stronger for it coming out the other side. And so like the achiever in me, it's like I love the unexpected. And so even in what we do, like here at the studio, it's like whenever something goes wrong, like tech or shoot gets delayed or edits come in, and it's just like, I don't know, I get excited. There's like a thrill of like, okay, like let's go. Like this is our chance. This is our mountain we get to climb now. It's like, I don't know, it's just fun. And so I enjoy that, like the adventure of the unknown and embrace the hard moments. And there's definitely times when it's easy, to you get in where you're burnt out mentally and you're just like, this is terrible. Because I've had races where I've been in the hurt locker and it is not fun. And it's like, get to the end of it and I'm like, what am I doing? But then it's that next morning that you like wake up and you're like thinking about it, you're like, that really wasn't that bad. It's like, I could have gone deeper. It's like, and then you're almost like upset with yourself that you allowed yourself to go negative in that mental space. Which is like, I just love that when you're in those, painful, like dark moments that you really discover like who you are. And so like sometimes like I've been in those and I don't like who I am in those moments. And so it's like, okay, what is it in my mindset that I need to shift to be able to be stronger in those moments? Because these are like, they're manufactured, like I'm seeking out pain. It's like, I'm paying to do a race that I know is going to hurt. And so I'm manufacturing these moments because I know there's going to come a day whenever it's like life is going to throw a curveball and I'm going to be in that moment and it's going to be dark and I didn't get to manufacture that, but it's what am I going to do when I'm in that moment? So I want to prepare myself and be as mentally strong and have as many tools in my toolkit that I can to be equipped to be like, this is a mountain I want to go, like we're going to climb back out of this. And
So do you have any go-to things? There are certain people that have like a certain scripture or like a picture or a metaphor. For me, one of the driving forces of why I like to do endurance events and Ironman races is, the metaphor to like my spiritual life. So being disciplined physically and looking at how Paul uses that metaphor of an athlete is disciplined in their training and how much more should we be in our spiritual training. And so like when it gets really difficult, thinking of those passages that are an encouragement of enduring, hardship is discipline and kind of push through, and enduring suffering and it produces perseverance and character. Is there anything for you that kind of sticks out that's a go-to, or is it different every time? Like where do you tap into? How does it connect into you, into who you are as a spiritual person, as a follower of Jesus?
Yeah, it's that 2 Timothy 4:7 of like, I want to, whenever I I'm sitting across from Jesus, that he looks at me and he's just like, you fought the good fight, and like you finished the race, you kept the faith. And it's, I don't know.
So it is a metaphor for you, like the physical aspect of it is a metaphor for that conversation with Jesus about fighting the good fight, finishing the race well, right? I mean, it's all a metaphor.
Yes, it's like I feel like we are called to be excellent in everything that we do, and a big driver as well for it. Like, I know, like, I'm not gonna, like, I may not have this body and the physical ability to be able to do the things that I'm doing now, but I know that I have it now. And so it's like, I don't want to waste that, because I know that there's people out there who aren't able and they can't do the things, or they've had that taken away from them. And so that's like, I want to honor them in I don't want to waste what I've been gifted and given. And that's a body that can endure things. And I want to be able to push that and, hopefully inspire other people in the process. That it's like, I just think it's so easy in our culture to get distracted and just kind of drift through life and chase comfort. And that, I don't think we're called to live a comfortable life. And so, I use physical to keep me sharp for those moments, because I know that there's going to be like what we have right now. It's like, this isn't forever. Yeah. And I just always have this, like, that there's going to be, other opportunities that will come along that God presents. And this is all just preparing for the next path that he has for us. And so just wanting to always be prepared for that. And so it's, I want to be mentally strong, physically strong, so that any opportunity that comes, it's not like I can't do that. It's like, no, I can do it. Yeah, man, I can connect with that pretty well, because I know for me personally, just so thankful that, I have friends that have gotten sick or gotten injured or gotten diseases, and they can't physically do these things. And I know that could happen to me at any moment. I could wake up tomorrow with something I didn't plan. And so I'm so grateful and thankful. And for me, it's like stewarding what I've been given. So I've been given this now, and how do I use it to help me grow closer to Jesus? How does it help me to grow as a better person, as a better leader, and to take advantage of the physical body that I can while I have it, because that may be taken away. Yeah. Something could happen. And so hopefully it's an encouragement for those that are able, and do have the physical ability, that we challenge each other and to go to these places and to use this metaphor of just physical conditioning, or competing even in something as like a 5K. I know people that actually, we just did the Winona Optimist Triathlon on yesterday or Saturday, and everybody had finished, and a lot of time had passed, and I think we were even lining up to do the awards. A lot of time had passed, and here comes this guy. Like, most of the stuff was already even teared down, and this guy, he comes chugging along, and everybody just turned around and erupted. Everybody was there just erupted with cheer and clapping. I don't know how long it took him. It might have taken him 2.5 hours or something to do this event. Yep. Definitely a lot longer than anyone else, but it was so awesome because he was so happy, he was so proud, and he pushed through. It's probably very painful for him, you know? So it's not like, you don't have to be an amazing athlete. It's just like taking that step forward to say, how can I enter into discomfort to challenge myself, to grow physically, enter a physical crucible, which is a metaphor for my spiritual life, even if that means going and signing up to walk a 5K. Yeah. Like, that might be a stretch for some people, and that's okay, right? That's not the point of how big or how grand or how far or whatever. Like, everybody's journey is different, but hopefully it's an encouragement to help people move forward in that life. Yeah. So no, it's not about it's not about the distance or like the size of the event. It's about that journey. And it's like, I look back, like, the pain that I feel in like some of these long distance races, I swear, if I went back, it was probably the same pain that I was feeling when I was doing my first 20-mile bike ride, where like that felt hard, and that felt like, I'm like, man, I can't imagine going to ride my bike for 20 miles. And it's like, but you grow, and it's the same thing like in life. It's like, you go through experiences, you develop new skills, and you continue to like push that boundary. And so anyone who is doing these big events, it all started with them doing their first 5K. It's like, you got to start somewhere. Everyone starts somewhere. You don't just,
I'd like to give a shout out too to my team Triumph. It's so cool to see them at these events because for those of you that don't know, there's a group of people that are taking physically disabled and challenged people and getting them into the event. So I was on a team one year and, had a boat attached to my back or whatever, trying to swim through and pull somebody. But the joy that you're bringing them is amazing. But love seeing those people that are volunteering on my team Triumph because it's harder for them too. Like it's difficult. I know Matt Hawk, I see him out there every year. He's doing that and a couple others that I know that do that and you see them and they're fighting hard and it's a grind, to pull another human being in a stroller behind you on a bike or to push them when you're running. But that just shows you like there's even people who are physically disabled that are still engaging in that and accomplishing that, achievement. And it's just so cool to see that. Oh yeah. It's so cool to see
and
that.
The joy and the pride that they have whenever they get across that finish line. Like it's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. So hopefully what we gather from this is that through these crucible moments, and specifically the one that you talked about, a pivotal moment in your life, and some of these endurance events that you've been after, that you're continually being refined as a leader on fire. And I think, metaphorically speaking, that's what you said. That's why you are doing these things, because it's continuing to sharpen your character. It's continuing to increase your dependency on Christ and your mental toughness and all of those things so that you can be just a better leader, a leader on fire, who's on fire for Christ and who's representing him as an image bearer in this life. And so, because I will say, and I know I have to guard myself against this, is that some of these things we can do in vain, just like anything else. I can become a workaholic and do it in vain, which really I'm supposed to be serving the Lord and using my gifts to serve him and be an ambassador for Christ. Same thing as a triathlete or an athlete. You can end up doing it in vain and become consumed with self. And so I think we've got to guard against that. But if we can keep the mindset that we're stewarding what God's been giving us, that's our physical body, that's our resources, all to become more and more and more like him and to be able to serve others. So it sounds like you have done that and you've been doing that. Hopefully you'll continue to do that. And someday, I hope I have higher wattage output than you, but you keep me motivated, so I'm going to keep after you, man. I'm going to be knocking on your door.
You're crushing it. I will say whatever you're doing, keep doing it because you're on the right path for sure.
And I'm 10 years older. Wait, how old did you say you were?
34.
Okay, I'm 43. So, and I can say, well, I have a handicap because I'm 9 years older, so I can reduce, 5 watts per year or something. Is that fair?
Something like that. I think we'll work out. I don't know if we'll ever actually have an age bracket where because I think we're right at that cusp where we're always going to be, we're actually going to race against each other. But it's good.
Oh, man. Well, dude, it's been awesome having you on the show. Really appreciate you sharing your story. Love what you're doing, and you're an inspiration to many people. So thank you for your work in the cycling and the triathlon world and in that area, as well as what you're doing with DreamOn and who you are as a father and a man and husband. So appreciate all that you're doing, man. Thanks for being on our show.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Perhaps it has prompted a painful memory or challenged you to reflect on times you were in the crucible. Some of you may be in a crucible now, but be encouraged. Maybe, just maybe, God is using this to refine your character so that you emerge as a leader on fire. If today's episode was an encouragement to you, share it with others who may also find encouragement in the Leaders on Fire podcast. So, let's go into the world sent out as leaders on fire. Until next time.